Nathaniel, we're beginning to just to work for a living.
No, I work for a show.
Thank you.
Are we ready?
Yeah. Boker Tov, everyone. Parsha of the week. This week is Nitzavim. In this Parsha, Moshe Rabbeinu tells us, Ki ha-mitzvah hazos asher anochi mitzavecha hayom. This mitzvah which I am commanding you today, lo nifleisi mimcha, it's not beyond you. V'lo rechoka hi mimech, it's not far away from you. Ki im korav hadover b'ficha v'lvavcha la'asos. It's close, it's in your mouth and in your heart, you're able to do it. And then Moshe says, it's not Me'aver Hayom. You don't have to cross the seas to obtain its wisdom. It's not in heaven. It's here, it's very practical. It's right here. Now Moshe identifies it as a mitzvah azos, this mitzvah. Which mitzvah is he talking about? What does he mean when he says a mitzvah hazos, this particular mitzvah? So Rashi and the Balaturim, the Chinuch and other Meforshim, all understand the word mitzvah here in its general sense and not in its particular technical sense. In other words, Moshe is not talking about any particular mitzvah. He's talking about the Torah. Everything that I've taught you about the Torah, all of the 613 mitzvot, all of the ethical ideas, all of the attitudes, not rachok, it's not far away from you. It's not something that you can't achieve. It's practical, it's here. So when we stop to think about it, the Torah is pretty difficult. It's not so easy. And we have, for instance, coming the great day of Yom Kippur, which presupposes that the Torah is not easy, that we have somehow fallen short of perfection, and therefore we need forgiveness, tolerance. We need heaven to be gracious to us. We need that it should not hold us to a difficult line that we cannot maintain. So what does it mean that he says, Moshe says regarding the Torah, that lo rechoka, it's not far away, it's close. It's up to you. So on this, the commentators over the ages have labored. What does it mean that it's close to you? Well, one of the ideas is that what is the nature of a person? Now, in the Torah, it says, Ki yetzer lev ha'adam ra minurav. The nature of a person is not a good one. The nature of a person is to be selfish, to be acquisitive, to follow one's desires. And therefore, a person requires, so to speak, civilizing. You have to improve on the person. That's what the Torah came to do. But the Gemara says, Borosi yetzer hara, borosi tavlin. I created, God said, that a person has an evil inclination. But I created the antidote, the natural immunity system. Now we are well aware of immunology. COVID has taught us what we know and what we don't know. But we know there's such a thing in the physical world as natural immunology, that the human body has within it the ability to defeat diseases without medicines, without any external help. And that is innate and inborn within us. The only thing is that we can weaken it. People have sometimes faulty immune systems, and then they're vulnerable. So then we need vaccines, and then we need all sorts of other things, because the natural immunology is not sufficient. So the Gemara explains that that's true in the spiritual world as well. Correct. Borosi yetzer hara. I created, human beings have an evil inclination. But there's an immunity system built into human beings also. In the Jewish world, that immunity system is called Torah. The Torah is the Tavlin, is the immunity system that overcomes the Yetzer Hara. Rather than overcome the Yetzer Hara, it channels the Yetzer Hara. In Yiddish, there was always a phrase that a person has a kosher Yetzer Hara. A kosher Yetzer Hara means that the immunology system will drive the person to do mitzvos, not necessarily for the most noble of reasons, but nevertheless, he's going to do good. So we all know that it can be because of social pressures, it can be because of honor, it can be because of fear. All sorts of motivations exist within us. But it drives us to doing good. It makes us better people. And so that is what Moshe meant when he said to the Jewish people, it's not far away from you. Let your natural immunity work. You don't have to look for other things. Now, we also call that conscience. A person has a conscience. It's a strange thing. But when we do something wrong, we are well aware that we have done something wrong. And we do something right, we're also well aware that we've done something right. Who told us? No one is looking. If no one is looking, I can do whatever I want. but there's a voice within me that doesn't allow me to do whatever I want. That somehow is my conscience. And my conscience is sufficient to create an immune system, to make it easier, so to speak, to be a good person, because that's natural to me. In fact, the Gemara says that the entire training of mitzvot is only to make it natural for us. That it's part of us. And therefore, when you see a very pious person or a great person, it's not an act that he's putting on. That's his natural being. It is developed so that it is not far distant from him. So that's what Rashi means when he says that the mitzvah here is Torah. Entire Torah, everything that's good. You shouldn't think that good is foreign to you. You have within you the capability to do evil, but you have within you also this immune system, which you should allow it to be activated. And if you do, so then the Torah is not difficult, it's not far away. I remember I heard in a conversation that I once had with the great Rabbi Moshe Feinstein, that we were discussing a very difficult problem that had ramifications and consequences beyond just a simple question of right or wrong. And I inadvertently said, it's hard to be a Jew. Because you got so many factors that you have to have in your mind. How will it reflect on the Jewish people? Everything. I told him, I'm a prisoner of things that I don't control. So I said, it's hard to be a Jew. He said to me, don't ever say that. He said, it's much harder not to be a Jew. Because then you have no immune system. So being a Jew is our immune system. So we remember, my grandfather, I remember back, my teachers, this, that, all of those things build the immune system. And that's what Moshe means when he says, lo nifleis, lo rechoka, it's not far away. It's not in heaven, it's not across the earth, it's a Korav Adover, it's very simple, it's close to you. So that's one view of the Pasuk. And the second view of the Pasuk, which the Ramban and the Abarbanel and other commentators deal with, they say that Moshe is referring to a specific mitzvah. Now, this is the machlokas, the Rishonim, on whether or not tshuva is a mitzvah or not. Is correcting past faults a mitzvah? Because one could say, maybe if you never did anything wrong, you got nothing to correct. So how could the mitzvah take effect? So that's a machlokas when it says in the Torah, "V'shov," and you will return. Is that merely a statement of what will happen? Or is that a commandment? Shav, return. So it's a wide-ranging discussion. That's not where I'm going with right now. But the corollary to that is tshuva a mitzvah or not? If you say it's only a historical statement, that's not a mitzvah. So it can't be the mitzvah that Moshe is referring to. If you say, however, Rishov is a mitzvah, so then the Ramban says that that's the mitzvah that Moshe is referring to. So again, if we say the mitzvah is tshuva, so the question arises, is tshuva easy to do? It's very difficult to do. We speak about tshuva a lot. I went to Mark Twain's famous quip about the weather, is that everyone talks about it, but no one does anything about it. So we could say that lahabdul about tshuva too. Everybody talks about it, but not much happens. Very hard to change a person. So that all the great works about tshuva always speak about of an incremental process, little steps. Because if you ask the person, change. In the Gemara, we have a number of instances of people who did terrible things, were traitors to the Jewish people. And then at the last moment, repented, and they did a great act on behalf of the Jewish people. And every case that Gemara brings, the person that did it immediately dropped dead. Because it was such a wrenching experience that the human body couldn't hold it. So overwhelming tshuva can be fatal. So it's very hard to do. And we know how hard it is. We know it in personal relationships. We know how difficult it is to say to a person, I'm sorry, I did wrong to you. A person will have 9,000 reasons why not to say that. Because he can't bring himself or herself to say it. It's too wrenching an experience. It's an emotion that taxes us completely. So because of that, therefore, tshuva is very hard, very hard. So why does Moshe say, Ki korav hadova b'ficha b'lvavcha v'asosa? It's easy. It's right, You got it in your mouth, in your heart. It's close. You can do it. It's a misrepresentation. If the mitzvah that we're talking about is the mitzvah of tshuva, so then Moshe should say, Ki kosher hadova. It's the hardest thing to do. The hardest thing to do is say that I was wrong. We see that from the story of Adam Rishon and Gan Eden, the narrative in Parsha Shiur. It's not my fault she made me do it. It's not my fault the snake made me do it. It's not my fault, She tempted me. It's not my fault. He kills his brother and he says, "Am I my brother?" And I don't know what happened to him. Because that's the nature of human beings. We see that in government and over again. It's never anybody's fault. Nobody's held accountable. Do the worst things in the world. Nobody did it. So why does it say Kikorav Hadova? So again, the Mefarshim, again, the same type of idea is that's built in within us. We may not be able to express it, but we feel that we did something wrong. We have an emotion that tells us that. And since that emotion exists within us, so then it's possible for us to change. It's possible for us to improve, but not in a overwhelming, dramatic, instantaneous fashion, but incrementally, to teach ourselves good habits. I remember when I was in the yeshiva, it was a completely different world then. And economically, I look back at it, all of the guys in the yeshiva, we were all poor by today's standards. We all, you had one hat and one tie that you wore from bar mitzvah till your wedding. Nobody thought that he's going to get a new tie for Yom Tov. And nobody thought that a tie can cost $150. So we had put it mildly, very limited funds to spend. Every day in the yeshiva, they would pass around the pushka. The guys would put in a penny, put in a nickel. If you were a big sport, you put in a dime. So I always had an aversion to it because the noise bothered me. Until today, take care of the pushka myself. I can't, okay. Everybody has their own mishugas. But I once complained to the mashgiach in the yeshiva. I said to him, we're all trying to concentrate on the davening, and they're going around with this pushka, and it's making noise, and it's disturbing, why should we do that? And at the end of the day, what do we collect? $1 from the whole yeshiva? So he told me then, he said, you missed the point. The point is that we are training your hands to give charity. So today you give a penny. God will help you. Someday you'll be able to give $1. But your hand won't be atrophied. It'll be in shape. You've done it. If you've never done it, if you never put in the penny now, later on when you have the money, you also won't be able to part with it because your hand is not trained. It's not part of you. So part of tshuva is to work on it constantly, not just the aseres you made tshuva, but always to listen to our conscience, to always do something, to do it regularly. So it's like to train ourselves to say good morning to people. Very small thing, but it's a very big thing. To train ourselves to be courteous. You can even train yourself to be in a good mood, believe it or not. That's why the Torah wants us to be b'simcha, because you can train yourself. So that's tshuva. That's not far away from you. You can do it. You can say good morning. And that's koravadover b'ficho b'vovcha lasosa. So we've had two interpretations of the mitzvah. One is the Torah, and the other is tshuva. There's a third interpretation based on the words ki koravadover b'ficho u'bilvovcha lasosa. It's in your mouth and in your heart to do it. What is in your mouth and heart? So the Gemara says that's tefillah, prayer. The concept of prayer is itself a revolutionary concept. Avraham Avinu introduced that concept into the world. Paganism is to worship a God that doesn't care. Stone and marble, metal, wood, to God that doesn't care, doesn't need you, doesn't have any relationship to you, the God that you have to sacrifice to, you have to appease them, and the God himself, so to speak, has all the bad habits that the human beings have, if not worse. Anyone who is familiar with Greek or Roman or Nordic mythology, the portrayal of the gods there is horrendous. They're the worst creatures in the world. And they're the ones you worship. That's why it's called Avodah Zorah. Strange worship. It's crazy for you to worship such things. Avraham Avinu introduces prayer. Vayikra Avraham b'shem Hashem. He proclaims God's name. We pray to God because God is interested in us somehow. We have a connection to him. A piece of us has his immortality within us. He went to a great deal of trouble, so to speak, to fashion us. So therefore, we can pray to him. We can ask him for favors. We can ask him for what we want. And that's what we do on a basis 3 times a day, Jews. The whole concept of prayer is a revolutionary concept. The Jews created it in the world. So therefore, we understand all the blessings on food and on events, etc. Prayer is our eternal conversation with the Creator. That's tefillah. And that's easy. Because I can do it, I can do it silently. And I can do it wherever I'm at, even though it should be in the synagogue with a proper order, but I can pray wherever I am. And I can pray in whatever the Gemara says, in any language that you know. The Lord understands all the languages. And that is close within us. It's within our heart. We know that. That's why they say, there are no atheists in foxholes. Meaning at the moment of terrible truth, person realizes that there's a connection somehow and that he can help. So therefore, when Moshe said, Lo rechoka hi, it's not far away, Kim beficha b'lovcha la'asoso, within your mouth and your heart to do it. So that refers to prayer. That's the mitzvah that's involved here. Now, the formal prayer that we have, that's a different matter. But we're talking about the spontaneous prayer that arises from a human heart. In times of good and times of better. That's possible. That's almost natural. It's almost automatic. It's almost that we don't even have to think about it. So these are three ideas that the Mefarshim put into this pasuk, to how to understand what the mitzvah is. Mitzvah is the whole Torah. The whole Torah is Heim Chayenu Vorech Yameinu. It's our life and the length of our days. And it's tshuva, the ability to repair and improve and constantly climb the ladder of goodness. And it's prayer. It's tefillah, which is the ultimate idea that we want to bring. That's what we say, that the tshuva, tefillah, tzedakah, mavir, nesrava, agzera. That's tshuva and tefillah. And tzedakah here is not necessarily monetary charity, but it's righteousness, it's the Torah. What would the Torah say regarding this matter? Tzedek, tirdo. Pursue righteousness. That's really our goal, not only in this great period of time now, but throughout our lives. And again, that's why it says, I want to wish you all a very good year. Thank you for everything. Next week, we will also have a Parsha class on Vayelech. Thank you and Shabbat Shalom.
I really enjoyed it.
You can watch it on video too.